The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the trees that surrounded Hollowvale campsite. The crackling campfire offered a feeble flicker of warmth and light, but its glow seemed to wane in the face of the encroaching darkness. This is the tale of a camping trip that transformed into a nightmarish ordeal, a chilling saga that unfolded amidst the eerie silence of the woods. As night settled in, a group of friends gathered around the campfire, their faces illuminated by the dancing flames. Laughter and camaraderie filled the air, a reassuring backdrop to the unfamiliar sounds that rustled through the underbrush. John, the group's de facto leader, regaled them with stories of the area's haunted history, a perfect prelude to the spine-tingling night ahead. The first night seemed uneventful, but an inexplicable chill settled over the campsite. The forest was eerily quiet, devoid of the usual nocturnal symphony of insects and rustling leaves. Even the crackling fire seemed to emit a subdued crackle, as if the woods were holding their breath. As the second night fell, unease began to gnaw at the edges of their consciousness. Shadows danced in the periphery of their vision, and the wind whispered secrets that were just beyond the realm of hearing. John attempted to dismiss their fears as mere tricks of the imagination, but doubt had already taken root. It was during the third night that their camping trip took a sinister turn. A faint tapping sound echoed through the woods like fingers lightly drumming on tree trunks. John scoffed at the idea of ghosts, attributing the noise to the local wildlife. But the tapping persisted, growing louder and more insistent as if demanding their attention. Their flashlights illuminated the trees as they ventured deeper into the woods, seeking the source of the enigmatic tapping. A strange otherworldly mist seemed to hang in the air, and each step felt like a descent into the unknown. The tapping led them to a clearing, where a gnarled tree stood alone, its branches twisted and contorted. As they approached the tree, the tapping ceased, and an eerie silence enveloped them. The moon cast an ethereal glow upon the tree's roots, revealing a small, weathered doll lying at its base. Its glass eyes seemed to glint with malevolence, and the sight sent a shiver down their spines. In that moment, the woods seemed to come alive with whispered voices, carried by the wind. The forest's mournful lament filled their ears, as if the very trees were mourning a long-forgotten tragedy. John's bravado wavered, and the group exchanged fearful glances. With a quick, dismissive gesture, John picked up the doll, intending to toss it aside as a mere curiosity. But as his fingers touched the doll's surface, a jolt of energy surged through him. The air grew icy, and the woods seemed to pulse with a malevolent force. The doll's eyes seemed to fixate on John, and a haunting voice emerged from its small porcelain mouth. It spoke of ancient curses and a hunger for revenge, its words dripping with a chilling malice. Panic gripped the group as they realized that they were entwined in a nightmare that defied explanation. Desperation fueled their flight as they scrambled back to the campsite. The woods seemed to close in around them, as if the very trees conspired to keep them trapped. Their flashlights flickered, casting erratic beams of light that cast elongated shadows upon the ground. Back at the campsite, the fire's warmth and light offered only a fleeting comfort. The doll's haunting words echoed in their minds, and the forest's oppressive silence settled over them once more. Fear gnawed at their sanity, each rustling leaf and distant hoot of an owl heightening their unease. As the night wore on, their fear intensified, and they huddled together as if safety could be found in their proximity. But as the first rays of dawn broke through the horizon, the woods seemed to exhale, releasing them from their nightmarish grip. Exhausted and shaken, they packed up their campsite, leaving behind the memories of the terrifying ordeal. The doll, now abandoned, seemed to glare at them one final time before they turned their backs on the woods. As they drove away from Hollowvale campsite, a sense of relief washed over them. Yet the haunting whispers and chilling presence of the woods lingered in their minds. The experience had forever changed them, a reminder that even in the most serene of settings, darkness can hide just beyond the trees. The sun continued its ascent, casting a warm glow that gradually erased the shadows of the night. But for those who had experienced the horrors of Hollowvale campsite, the memory of that chilling night would remain etched into their souls, a reminder that some mysteries are best left untouched. The mist hung heavy in the air as a group of friends arrived at Misty Pines campground. The towering trees seemed to stretch endlessly into the gray sky, their branches shrouded in an eerie fog that lent an otherworldly aura to the landscape. This is the tale of a camping trip that descended into a nightmarish spiral, a chilling story that unfolded amidst the mysterious mists of the forest. As the group set up their campsite, excitement and anticipation filled the air. The crackling campfire offered a warm oasis amidst the cool dampness, and laughter resonated through the trees. Amy, the group's fearless leader, regaled them with tales of the campground's legendary hauntings, eager to add a thrill to their camping adventure. The first night passed uneventfully, the campfire's flickering light casting dancing shadows upon the tents. The forest's nocturnal symphony of chirping crickets and rustling leaves provided a soothing backdrop, and the group settled into their sleeping bags with a sense of contentment. However, as the second night descended, a strange unease seemed to settle over the campsite. The mist grew thicker, obscuring the surroundings and muffling even the faintest sounds. The once familiar landscape now appeared alien, and even the campfire's glow seemed feeble against the enveloping darkness. During the third night, the mist transformed into an impenetrable shroud that clung to the trees like ghostly fingers. The air was heavy with a palpable tension, and the group's laughter had grown strained. As they huddled around the campfire, the mist seemed to whisper secrets, carrying the echoes of voices long gone. Amy, determined to maintain their sense of adventure, suggested exploring the trails despite the unnerving atmosphere. The group agreed reluctantly, their flashlights cutting through the mist like beams of light in a dense fog. The trail's familiar markers were obscured, and each step seemed to lead them deeper into the unknown. As they ventured further, an unsettling sensation washed over them. The trail was shifting and changing, as if the forest itself was leading them astray. Panic began to take hold as they realized that the once clear path had become a maze of confusion. Amy attempted to retrace their steps, but the landscape defied logic, and the mist seemed to distort their perceptions. Hours passed and desperation grew as the group's flashlights began to flicker. Amy's voice trembled as she tried to rally the group, but a sense of foreboding had gripped them all. The mist began to take on sinister shapes, morphing into figures that danced at the edge of their vision. Exhausted and disoriented, the group stumbled upon a clearing. In the center stood a solitary tree, its branches reaching upward as if yearning for the heavens. Hanging from its branches were ethereal strands of fabric that fluttered in the breeze. As they approached, they realized that each piece of fabric bore a name, names that echoed through their memories. The realization struck them like a bolt of lightning. The names were their own. Fear seized them, their hearts pounding in their chests. The mist seemed to close in around them, its tendrils like icy fingers against their skin. Amy's voice shook as she tried to call out, but her words were swallowed by the swirling mist. Time seemed to lose all meaning as the mist enveloped them, its touch cold and invasive. Shadows danced on the periphery of their vision, and whispered voices seemed to echo through the air. Their flashlights died, plunging them into total darkness, their only guide the eerie glow of the fabric strands. Just as panic threatened to consume them, a distant light flickered through the mist. The figures of a search party emerged, their voices cutting through the darkness like a lifeline. As the mist began to recede, the fabric strands melted into the air, leaving no trace of their existence. The group was rescued, their harrowing ordeal coming to an end. As they emerged from the mist-shrouded woods, the sun's first rays cast a warm glow upon their weary faces. The forest had released its grip, and the campground's haunting aura seemed to retreat. Though the mist had concealed unspeakable horrors, the group's bond had grown stronger through their shared nightmare. The memory of Misty Pines Campground's haunting would forever remain etched into their minds, a reminder that not all trails are meant to be followed, and some mysteries are better left unexplored. Nestled deep within a remote forest, Silent Hollow campsite lay cloaked in an aura of mystery. The towering trees seemed to form an impenetrable fortress, their thick canopy casting dappled shadows upon the forest floor. This is the story of a camping trip that took a sinister turn, a tale that unfolded amidst the enigmatic silence of the wilderness. As dusk settled in, a group of friends gathered around the campfire, their faces illuminated by the warm glow. Laughter and camaraderie filled the air, but beneath their mirth was an underlying sense of unease. Rachel, the group's intrepid adventurer, shared eerie tales of Silent Hollow's hidden secrets, eager to add a spine-tingling thrill to their camping experience. The first night passed without incident, the crackling campfire casting dancing shadows that seemed to sway to the rhythm of the wind. The forest's symphony of chirping insects provided a comforting backdrop, and the group drifted into slumber with a sense of security. Yet as the second night descended, a strange stillness settled over the campsite. The forest's symphony was replaced by an unsettling silence, broken only by the occasional rustling of leaves. The group's laughter seemed to die in their throats, replaced by exchanged glances of uncertainty. As the third night fell, the forest seemed to hold its breath, the air thick with an unspoken tension. Shadows danced on the periphery of their vision, and the once familiar landscape appeared transformed, as if the very trees were shifting beneath the weight of secrets. Rachel, determined to embrace the adventure, suggested embarking on a nighttime hike to a nearby clearing. The group agreed hesitantly, their flashlights piercing the darkness as they navigated the winding trail. The forest's silence was oppressive, and each step felt like a trespass into an unseen world. As they reached the clearing, a spectral mist seemed to rise from the ground, casting an ethereal glow upon the landscape. The moon hung low in the sky, its pale light revealing strange symbols etched into the earth. The group exchanged wary glances, their unease growing stronger. The mist began to coalesce, taking on sinister forms that seemed to move with a life of their own. Whispers carried on the breeze, as if the very forest were speaking in hushed tones. The group's anxiety intensified, and a feeling of being watched settled over them. Rachel's flashlight flickered, casting erratic beams of light that revealed fleeting glimpses of figures that seemed to vanish upon closer inspection. Panic gripped them, their hearts pounding in their chests. The forest shadows seemed to stretch and contort, as if reaching out to ensnare them. In the midst of the eerie spectacle, a voice emerged from the mist, its words ancient and haunting. It spoke of forgotten rituals and a presence that had been awakened, its words like tendrils that wormed their way into their minds. Fear rooted them to the spot, their breaths coming in shallow gasps. As the voice's cadence grew, Rachel's voice joined in, her words a counterpoint to the ancient incantation. The group watched in horror as Rachel's eyes glowed with an unnatural light, her body seemingly possessed by an otherworldly force. The very forest seemed to respond to her presence, as if bowing to a forgotten power. Desperation fueled their flight as they stumbled back along the trail, their surroundings a blur of trees and mist. Shadows seemed to lash out at them, and the forest's silence gave way to a cacophony of spectral whispers. Their flashlight beams wavered, casting eerie shadows that danced upon the trees. Back at the campsite, the campfire's crackling warmth and light offered a semblance of refuge. Rachel's possession had ceased, leaving her disoriented and shaken. The forest's oppressive presence still lingered, but the campfire seemed to hold it at bay, casting a protective circle of light. As the night wore on, the group huddled together as if seeking safety in their proximity. The forest's whispers faded, and the mist receded, leaving them in a world of flickering firelight. The dawn's first light broke through the horizon, casting a warm glow upon their weary faces. The group packed up their campsite, their shared ordeal forever etched into their memories. As they left Silent Hollow campsite behind, a sense of relief washed over them. The forest's mysteries and secrets had forever altered them, a reminder that some places are gateways to realms best left untouched. The sun continued its ascent, casting a golden light that dispelled the lingering shadows. But for those who had experienced the horrors of Silent Hollow, the memory of that haunting night would remain a whispered secret, a reminder that in the heart of the wilderness, ancient forces still stir, waiting to be awakened.